Hey guys, so I wanted to talk about a new philosophy that I've been developing lately in my head, which has been super useful for me for pretty much every problem in my life that I've been encountering lately. So as a quick story, about 2 months ago, I was stuck in a rut. For the past 2 years, I've been stuck in a rut, but for 2 months ago, I had a problem that I found unsolvable. It felt like I only had one or two choices, and I had to just choose between only a couple of options. And I felt very trapped. I felt like I had I wasn't free. I feel like I had to go either option A or option B, and that was it. Basically, I was moving to Paris, and I live here in France on an employment visa, but I quit my job, so I no longer work at that previous company that gave me the original visa. So I felt like I had to join an incubator program to get into a different type of visa situation, a self-employment visa. And technically that's what you do when you want to start a business and operate in France. However, I basically didn't want to. That was the problem. I don't really want to join an incubator for my company. I want to just kind of work online and continue on doing what I'm doing. But I felt trapped. I felt like I had to choose between joining one of these incubator programs or leaving the country. And I was ruminating and suffering because I felt like I had to make a big decision. I felt like I had to choose between option A or option B, and there were no other options. And needless to say, I was feeling kind of depressed. I felt trapped. I didn't really want to choose option A or choose option B. And I think that stress of being trapped is when I started to, look for answers. I felt like there had to be other options out there. There had to be something else that I could do. So I Googled around. Obviously, that's what we do when we have problems as millennials. And I found an article that pretty much changed my life. It changed my whole way of thinking. And I wanted to share that way of thinking with you guys today. So oftentimes in life, we think that there's only option A or option B. And I realized that this is actually a mental limitation. It's not true. It's never true. There's never just option A or option B. And the article that I found that changed my way of thinking basically said that is one of the principal reasons for human suffering is that we think in black and white terms. And in reality, there are a myriad of options. And so this article recommended an exercise that I tried out, which really works. And here's the exercise. So when you feel like you are stuck between two options, write down as many different possible options that you can possibly think of. So if you think that you're stuck between option A or option B, I had to join this incubator program or leave the country, I started to write down all the different options that I had. So I realized that if I push my brain beyond this mental trap that I have and start writing, okay, my first option is that maybe there's another incubator program instead of just this one to join. Maybe I can join a different one. Maybe I can apply to make a bunch of different applications for different stuff. And then I started to push beyond just the basic ideas that I had, like maybe I could go back to school and become a student and get a student visa. Maybe I could leave the country but go to a different country instead of going home and get a different visa. Maybe I can get a freelance visa. Maybe I could ask my rich uncle for $100,000 to invest in the French economy and then get an investment visa. That's impossible. So, this is where we start to push the realm of possibility, start to become creative, start to think outside the box. And although you're not going to be able to take a lot of the possible options, doing this mental exercise allows your brain to become more mentally flexible. You start to realize and see things from a different perspective. You start to realize that you have more options than you think. And ultimately, the option that I chose was that I realized I didn't have to do anything, actually, because my current visa that I'm on is actually valid legally. There is no legal problem for pressure for me to leave the country, really. There's no problem with it. I can continue working and operating my US-based company here for the foreseeable future. Yes, there's along the line I'll have to eventually get a different type of visa, but I'm not really in a good place for that yet. And there's a grace period, so there's no problem with me waiting a little bit longer to do it. And life is unpredictable. I may choose a different option eventually, but this made me start thinking that I could apply this method for other aspects of my life too, where I start to feel like I am being too mentally rigid on myself. Like there's only one way you can diet. There's only one way you can handle your relationships. You have to do one thing or the other, and that's that. You have to pick one partner, for example, or none at all, or whatever. You have to, we put ourselves in these boxes when we don't need to. And ever since I've started doing this exercise, every time that I have a problem, I start to write down all of my different options that I have, and I start to feel more at ease. And I'm starting to realize that there's a therapy to realizing that you have some options. When you start to push your brain to become more mentally flexible as opposed to being mentally rigid between black and white options, choice A and choice B, you actually start to feel better. It's a weird thing. It's like a mental medicine. And on the flip side, I started thinking about, all the times that there's evil in the world, it's typically because that person that is committing evil acts has a very limited worldview. He feels like things have to be a certain way, and he doesn't like that the world is a certain way. So to sum up, if you ever feel like you're trapped in life, my recommendation to you would be to look at what options you think you have and start to make a list of a bunch of different options that you may not have thought of before. So just crazy options. They can be stuff that is realistic and stuff that's unrealistic. It doesn't really matter. This exercise will make you start to realize that you're not as trapped as you originally think, and that the world is not black and white, and you can get yourself out of this mental prison or mental trap that you create for yourself and start to feel a lot better. And that is my recommendation today. Thank you.